Chapter 5 The Funeral January 17th, 1994. Doggy called out from the top of the stairs. "Our carpool is here, Mom. They won't keep waiting." And walked the steps with little expression, complete in a dark dress and hat you might expect from a widow. Doggy and Dog walked smartly dressed in their black suits and black ties to the funeral car outside. Anne joined them in the back seat, clasping their nimble hands close, as if to give her strength. The car passed all the normal sights of the cemetery, only this time it meant something. Anne held a tissue. In the event, she would become tearful. But she sat in the car, still composed, probably, Doggy thought, so as not to make him and his brother emotional. The funeral car finally pulled up outside the Lampolla Cemetery. The site was decorated beautifully with flowers. Bright yellow marigolds and daffodils lined a walkway. The flowers did nothing to disguise their real purpose in Anne Brown's eyes, and the walkway led to a closed coffin. Doggy, Dog, and their mother walked to the coffin, held hands, and knelt down. King looked out at the brave souls as he exited his funeral car. A voice called his name, with it a face King did not wish to run into. "I know about the snakes and the destruction they have caused." The older gentleman who approached King had a dark demeanor to him, and his black suit was more about power than fitting for this occasion. "Ian, you are not welcome here. Now leave us in peace." King turned his back to walk away. "You can't keep running from this, Kay. People are beginning to lose faith. How long can this be kept a secret?" Ian went on. "As long as it needs to. This is all under control, so why don't you disappear?" King's frustration was beginning to show through, but Ian had not finished. "A trail of dead rodents was found earlier towards the SBF Center. That is your idea of control? It is only a matter of time before this is exposed, and I don't want to be the bad guy." The suited busybody walked off. Ian McKenna, as King knew him, was a devious man who had no real beliefs. He did everything to stir trouble just to prevent King from his plans, no matter which way they went. King straightened his tie and walked past the crowd sat on rows of benches, all lined up to face the coffin. All here for Thomas Jack Brown. King stood on a raised platform behind the coffin. A wooden stand held the funeral prayer King had prepared in respect of their dear friend. King looked amongst the people. A funny feeling came over him, but he would not let that stop him, and he began. "In 1976, a promising man came to join me in a small group of soldiers. He hadn't any firearms training, and he did not know the first thing on combat fighting. Maybe it was his ambition to fight with the rest, the good of the country. Maybe it was a new challenge he wanted to take." "You must hear it too, King. The pounding below our feet," Doggy said in his head. One thing was for certain. His determination and sheer willpower has saved us time and time again. It is that reason we are gathered here, not so much to mourn the loss of his life, but feel proud of the life he led and how he made such a great impact. A glass of wine on a table caught King's eye. The wine began to shake in the glass. "So please, take a moment to reflect on the good that was our dear friend, Thomas Jack Brown, and let us remember him for how he should always be remembered, a hero." The coffin was lowered into the pit below. The heads were down. It was the passing of a friend and a true hero, as King rightly said. King left the stand but felt the ground shake beneath him. "He's back," King said in his head. "If you could all leave the casket, please. Any more goodbyes can be made at a later time. Right now, you must all go home. Let us deal with the burial," King stated. It was not the plan of action, but a quick effort to hide a greater threat. Doggy could now understand. He wondered how many others guessed something was wrong, how many felt the rumble under their feet and just dismissed it as something less significant. Doggy recalled his dad's story of the great earthquake in 1975. It took place in Anglofalac, where his father lost his dad when he was just 17. But this was Ak-Sar-Ben, thought Doggy, and nothing unusual happened here. The crowds of people slowly dispersed, leaving an almost empty cemetery. Only the strange saviors remained, and all they could do was wait in fear for whatever was waiting for them. "Doggy!" His mother's faint voice could be heard as she appeared from nearby trees. "There's a battle ahead, and you have the gift to defeat it. I want you to go with King. I am frightened of losing you, but I know what you mean to the cause," and continued. Doggy ran to his mother's side. "I'll never be too far, for too long, I promise. Now go home with Dog, where it's safe," assured Doggy. King waved Doggy to keep moving. Doggy caught up with him and Sconantach and left the cemetery. I returned frequently to hear these stories about the burial of Doggy's father. I felt bad not to have been there. The trail of dead rodents did indeed turn out to be the snakes. The snakes before recently only ate plants and other such, but never meat. This proved a new challenge, to conclude the change in their appetite. As I began to learn more, the more I took part, safe in the knowledge I could always return to my world. I discovered, in the course of my returns, that time never moves on Earth as I spend it on their land. On one return, 5 months since the burial, everything had changed. June the 13th, 1994. "King!" Nick shouted, running toward the eldest savior as he was untying Sky from the pasture. "I'm glad you could join us, Nick. Doggy's on his way to the SBF Center. He thinks there's something missing, something we did not pick up on before." Nick joins King on Sky, holding the book close by his side as they race to the SBF Center. Once inside, they found Doggy mending an old machine with electricity from his hands. "They use these machines to change the entire genetics of the snakes," Doggy explained. "Well done, Doggy. You have figured out a vital clue. So they can eat meat. Why is it they only chase us? Why don't they go after their big bad boss? That would be dinner for a month," questioned King. "Not only that," Doggy began, "their venom has also been used in attacks. They never use that unless disturbed, but it seems these latest strikes were unprovoked. I think they're under Baby Bouncer's control." "What if they came back?" Nick asked, looking a little less secure. "They have what they came for here. They hide away now at the Serpent Research Facility, and I think that was totally by accident," Doggy replied, looking up as the straw man rushed to their side. "They're on the move. You must leave now," warned Sconatach. 2 baby blue eyes peered out in the darkness of the room. Teeth from the snake went for Doggy, only just missed him, biting the sleeve from the shirt instead. King, Doggy, Nick, and Sconatach fled the room. They could feel the chase ever more present and began to feel the earth shake beneath them. They ran until their feet felt heavy and worn. The snakes were still hot on their trail and closed in on Nick, who was clearly not as quick as the others. He tossed the book to Sconatach as if the book was more important to him than his own life. The snake's attention was quickly moved to Sconatach, who had excellent agility, swinging from a tree and dodging the menacing snakes as they came. The book, Nick thought, at the sudden realization of what they were really after. The page was carefully marked at what gave Nick the power to enter the world, but once that page was lost, the world would close for him, and they would lose the book, at least until it was opened again. Then the ground shook so hard Sconatach was thrown from his feet, hitting his head against a large stone. Nick helped him up to a standing position. Ahead of them was a sheer drop. King knew it well. "Don't get too close. It must all change now," King announced. A final tremble from beneath them caused the cliff ahead to break away, just a few feet from where they stood. Baby Bouncer appeared like a giant moving tree. He had grown over the months, and now towered over them at 11 feet tall. King had grabbed his sword he had perched in his case behind his back, ready to attack. Doggy ripped off a section of his sleeve that contained the poison from the venomous snakes. Suddenly, an arrow came hurtling toward Baby Bouncer and caught him directly in the heart. "We can't fight off all these snakes," Nick announced, as the snakes inched their way towards the others. There was no escape. How could King have led them back to this point of no return? Suddenly, the snake's eyes began to fade back to their normal brown color, and their teeth were no longer baring. King looked behind them, and the tall moving tree that was Baby Bouncer was reduced to a dying monster. Doggy took off the case of arrows behind him and watched his master plan unfold. The snakes had returned to their natural state, except it appeared they still had a taste for meat. With Baby Bouncer dying on the ground floor, to the snakes it was like dinner served. They looked hungrily at their once strange leader and began tearing at his flesh. King looked towards Doggy, knowing he was a real hero in it all, and walked over to him. "You have once again saved us in remarkable circumstances. They poisoned your shirt. To anyone else that would be a near miss, but to you, it worked like a weapon to their destruction. You were right, the snakes were under his control, but it seems they have not lost their appetite for meat." Doggy felt this sense of accomplishment, and with King, Nick, and Sconatach, the four of them began the long journey home, thinking next time they would have to be better prepared.